The quantum communication array of the Zorn Central Command erupted in a cascade of unexpected signals, a symphony of technological disruption that sent immediate shockwaves through the most advanced communication network in the known galaxy. Senior Communication Officer Krulax, a veteran of countless first contact scenarios, felt the first tendrils of genuine uncertainty crawl up his neural spine. The holographic displays that typically showed routine galactic traffic began to shimmer and dance with an unprecedented transmission. Unlike the thousands of intercepted communications from emerging civilizations, usually fragmented, primitive, and easily dismissed, this signal was different. Crystal clear, precise, almost challenging. "This is Captain Elena Rodriguez of the UES Defiance," a voice announced, each syllable cutting through the communication noise with surgical precision. "I hope we're not interrupting anything important." Krulax's multiple eyes, a genetic adaptation that allowed simultaneous perception of different electromagnetic spectrums, narrowed. The human female on the display wore a midnight blue uniform that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Her steel-gray eyes held something beyond mere communication. There was intent, calculation. The command center around Krulax transformed from a hub of routine monitoring to a crucible of sudden tension. Hundreds of alien communication specialists, representing dozens of advanced civilizations that had spent millennia perfecting interstellar communication, stopped their routine tasks. The transmission wasn't just unexpected. It was impossible. Humanity, according to every galactic database, was a nascent species. Their first confirmed extrasolar exploration had occurred barely 50 standard galactic cycles ago. They were supposed to be primitives, still struggling with basic fusion technologies and limited to their own solar system. Certainly not capable of breaching the most secure communication networks in the known universe. Yet here they were. "Transmission origins confirmed," muttered a junior technician, her voice quivering. "Sol system. Direct quantum entanglement channel. No known encryption method. Just pure transmission." Krulax felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries of service, something dangerously close to fear. The human captain continued, a hint of amusement dancing at the corner of her mouth. "We are entering recognized galactic spaces. Consider this our formal introduction." Behind her, glimpses of a ship's interior suggested something far different from the expected primitive technology. Surfaces that seemed to shift and adapt. Holographic interfaces that moved with liquid complexity. Technological hints that suggested something far beyond what any preliminary intelligence suggested about human capabilities. "Patch this through to the Concordance diplomatic corps," Krulax commanded, his voice a mixture of professional calm and underlying tension. Immediate priority transmission. Little did he know, that single transmission would mark the beginning of the most significant moment in galactic diplomatic history. Humanity wasn't asking for permission to join the galactic stage. They were announcing their arrival. Part 2. Ridicule and Underestimation. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Concordance resembled a cathedral of cosmic bureaucracy. Crystalline surfaces that reflected millennia of established power, holographic displays showcasing centuries of diplomatic achievements, and representatives from over 200 sentient civilizations. When the transmission from the human vessel was replayed, the initial response was not concern. It was unrestrained laughter. The Trixel diplomats, 8-limbed masters of galactic bureaucracy whose bodies were composed of living crystal, quite literally rolled with mocking hilarity. Their crystalline forms refracted light in waves of derision, creating a mesmerizing display of contempt that simultaneously illuminated the hall and underscored their dismissal of the human transmission. "Look at this tiny vessel," proclaimed Grand Diplomat Uxnar, manipulating a holographic model of the human ship between his multiple appendages. The model was comically small, dwarfed by the massive representation of a standard Concordance diplomatic cruiser. "It's smaller than our standard communication couriers." Diplomatic attaches from various civilizations joined the mockery. The silicon-based Krelax representatives projected holographic caricatures of human ships, reducing them to comedic props. The gaseous nebula collective formed intricate humor patterns that translated to universal mockery. What none of them realized was that every moment of ridicule was being recorded, analyzed, processed. Humanity was watching and learning. Would you like me to continue with the subsequent parts of the story in the same artifact? I'll wait for your confirmation before adding the remaining parts to ensure you're satisfied with the approach. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Concordance resembled a cathedral of cosmic bureaucracy. Crystalline surfaces that reflected millennia of established power, holographic displays showcasing centuries of diplomatic achievements, and representatives from over 200 sentient civilizations. When the transmission from the human vessel was replayed, the initial response was not concern. It was unrestrained laughter. The Trixel diplomats, eight-limbed masters of galactic bureaucracy, whose bodies were composed of living crystal, quite literally rolled with mocking hilarity. Their crystalline forms refracted light in waves of derision, creating a mesmerizing display of contempt that simultaneously illuminated the hall and underscored their dismissal of the human transmission. "Look at this tiny vessel," proclaimed Grand Diplomat Vuxnar, manipulating a holographic model of the human ship between his multiple appendages. The model was comically small, dwarfed by the massive representation of a standard Concordance diplomatic cruiser. It's smaller than our standard communication couriers. Diplomatic attaches from various civilizations joined the mockery. The silicon-based Krelax representatives projected holographic caricatures of human ships, reducing them to comedic props. The gaseous nebula collective formed intricate humor patterns that translated to universal mockery. What none of them realized was that every moment of ridicule was being recorded, analyzed, processed. Humanity was watching and learning. Part 3. The Technological Enigma. Dr. Lyra Chen sat in the UES, Defiance's primary research hub, her fingers dancing across quantum-responsive holographic interfaces that seemed to anticipate her thoughts before she could form them. Around her, a team of human scientists worked with an intensity that bordered on obsessive, their eyes reflecting a complex matrix of data that would have driven most alien species to madness. The ship's sensor arrays were doing something unprecedented. They weren't just scanning the surrounding space. They were engaged in a complex dance of quantum manipulation that defied every known principle of galactic sensor technology. "Quantum state shift detected," announced Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez, no relation to the captain but sharing the same laser-focused intensity. "Probability fluctuation at 0.003% variance. To any other species, this would have been meaningless noise. To the humans aboard the Defiance, it was a symphony of potential." Chief Science Officer Dr. Aisha Kapoor leaned forward, her augmented neural interface pulsing with a soft blue light. "Initiate quantum resonance protocol. Let's show them what real technology looks like." The ship's exterior began to shift, not just in appearance, but in fundamental quantum structure. One moment, standard sensor arrays would detect a conventional fusion drive vessel. The next, quantum entanglement signatures would bloom across multiple spectrums, rendering traditional tracking methods completely useless. Aboard the Concordance research vessels, sensors went wild. Impossible readings started flooding communication channels. Dr. Lyron, the most respected xenotechnological expert in the Galactic Concordance, stared at her displays with growing terror. "These readings," she muttered, her multispectral vision struggling to comprehend what she was seeing. "They're not just advanced. They're fundamentally impossible." The human vessel was doing more than just traveling through space. It was rewriting the very laws of physics as it moved. Dr. Lyra Chen sat in the UES, Defiance's primary research hub, her fingers dancing across quantum-responsive holographic interfaces that seemed to anticipate her thoughts before she could form them. Around her, a team of human scientists worked with an intensity that bordered on obsessive, their eyes reflecting a complex matrix of data that would have driven most alien species to madness. The ship's sensor arrays were doing something unprecedented. They weren't just scanning the surrounding space. They were engaged in a complex dance of quantum manipulation that defied every known principle of galactic sensor technology. "Quantum state shift detected," announced Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez, no relation to the captain but sharing the same laser-focused intensity. "Probability fluctuation at 0.003% variance." To any other species, this would have been meaningless noise. To the humans aboard the Defiance, it was a symphony of potential. Chief Science Officer Dr. Aisha Kapoor leaned forward, her augmented neural interface pulsing with a soft blue light. "Initiate quantum resonance protocol. Let's show them what real technology looks like." The ship's exterior began to shift, not just in appearance, but in fundamental quantum structure. One moment, standard sensor arrays would detect a conventional fusion drive vessel. The next, quantum entanglement signatures would bloom across multiple spectrums, rendering traditional tracking methods completely useless. Aboard the Concordance research vessels, sensors went wild. Impossible readings started flooding communication channels. Dr. Lyron, the most respected cynotechnological expert in the Galactic Concordance, stared at her displays with growing terror. "These readings," she muttered, her multispectral vision struggling to comprehend what she was seeing, "they're not just advanced. They're fundamentally impossible." The human vessel was doing more than just traveling through space. It was rewriting the very laws of physics as it moved. Quantum matrices danced across holographic displays. Each reading was a testament to humanity's fundamental reimagining of technological possibility. Where other species saw limitations, humans saw opportunities. Where conventional science suggested boundaries, the team aboard the Defiance saw merely temporary obstacles. Lieutenant Rodriguez continued his analysis, quantum coherence maintaining at 99.6%. Dimensional stress within acceptable parameters. Dr. Chen's team was doing something unprecedented. They weren't just studying space. They were negotiating with it. Gravitational fields became malleable. Quantum uncertainties transformed into predictable patterns. The very fabric of spatial existence seemed to bend around their technological approach. "Initiate dimensional mapping," Dr. Kapoor commanded, her voice calm despite the revolutionary nature of their work. Holographic displays exploded with complexity. Quantum signatures that would have driven most species to madness became a readable, comprehensible language. The ship wasn't just moving through space. It was communicating with it, understanding its fundamental structure in ways no other civilization had ever conceived. Dr. Lyron from the Concordance research vessels continued to watch in growing terror and fascination. These humans were doing more than exploring space. They were fundamentally rewriting the understanding of what was possible. The technological enigma aboard the UES Defiance was more than a demonstration of capability. It was a philosophical statement about the nature of existence itself. Humanity had arrived, and nothing would ever be the same again. 3 Zorn interceptor vessels emerged from quantum-fold space, their weapon systems primed and ready. These were not just military vessels. They were the culmination of 10,000 years of weapons development. Each ship could reduce a medium-sized moon to plasma in less than 3 standard minutes. The lead vessel, commanded by High Tactical Executor Vornax, represented the pinnacle of Zorn military technology. Quantum adaptive shields, multi-spectrum weapon systems, and computational matrices that could predict enemy movements with terrifying accuracy. They had pacified countless emerging civilizations, reduced rebellious colonies to cosmic dust, and maintained the Concordance's military supremacy for millennia. Target acquired. Vornax's multivocal communication system announced, preparing standard containment protocol for emerging species vessel. But the UES Defiance was anything but standard. Captain Elena Rodriguez watched their approach with clinical detachment. Her bridge crew moved with a synchronicity that defied traditional military hierarchy. Each station was a node of collective intelligence, with quantum-responsive interfaces that seemed to anticipate threats before they materialized. Tactical assessment, she commanded. Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez's fingers touched the quantum interface. Holographic threat projections bloomed around the bridge, each potential weapon trajectory calculated and countered before the Zorn vessels could even consider firing. Threat level: minimal, he reported. Recommend demonstration protocol. The Zorn interceptors found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to dance between reality and possibility. Weapon systems that could predict and neutralize threats materialized milliseconds before potential impact. Quantum projections allowed the UES Defiance to simultaneously exist in multiple spatial coordinates. In less than 7 standard minutes, the 3 most advanced military vessels in the Concordance fleet were reduced to floating debris. No weapons had been fired, no direct contact made. They had been systematically, mathematically, dismantled. The emergency transmission cut through every communication channel in the Galactic Concordance with surgical precision. Captain Elena Rodriguez's image appeared on screens across hundreds of alien civilizations, her steel-gray eyes holding an intensity that transcended mere military communication. "We are not here to discuss technological superiority." Her voice resonated with a clarity that seemed to bypass traditional communication barriers. "We are here to warn you about an existential threat that your combined civilizations have overlooked for centuries." Behind her, the bridge of the UES Defiance revealed glimpses of data streams that would have driven most species to madness. Massive holographic projections displayed complex dimensional mappings, gravitational anomalies, and quantum signature patterns that suggested something far beyond conventional understanding. Dr. Lyra Chen, the ship's lead sinological researcher, stepped forward. Her augmented neural interface pulsed with concentrated information, holographic displays dancing around her with impossible complexity. "The threat we've discovered exists in the liminal spaces between dimensional frameworks," she explained. "What you've considered empty space is actually a hibernation zone for a civilization that makes your current technological understanding look like primitive cave drawings." The data was terrifying in its implications. Quantum signatures revealed a dormant extra-dimensional predator civilization. Not just a military threat, but an existential one, a species that consumed entire dimensional ecosystems, leaving nothing but quantum dust in their wake. Quantum-encrypted data streams began to cascade across diplomatic channels. Gravitational anomalies that the Concordance had dismissed as statistical errors now formed a terrifying, coherent pattern. This wasn't just a potential threat. It was an inevitable extinction-level event. "We've been tracking this threat for decades," Rodriguez continued. "While your civilizations were busy with internal politics and technological one-upmanship, we've been preparing. Our entire species has been mobilized around this single objective." The holographic displays showed something unprecedented. Humanity had not just discovered the threat. They had developed a comprehensive framework for understanding, communicating with, and potentially neutralizing it. Grand Diplomat Uxnar, whose earlier mockery of humanity seemed like a distant memory, now sat frozen. The crystalline structure of his body seemed to fracture with each revelation. Humanity wasn't just presenting a threat. They were offering a solution that would fundamentally transform the entire concept of galactic civilization. The quantum laboratory aboard the UES Defiance was unlike any research facility in known galactic history. Walls that breathed with adaptive metamaterials, holographic interfaces that responded to mere thoughts, and an atmosphere thick with the potential of scientific breakthrough. Dr. Ariane Nakamura stood at the epicenter of humanity's most ambitious technological project. Her hands, augmented with neural responsive quantum interfaces, moved like a maestro conducting an impossible symphony of scientific potential. Around her, a team of researchers from every conceivable background worked with a singular purpose that defied traditional scientific collaboration. "Quantum entanglement sequence initiated," she announced, her voice calm despite the magnitude of what was about to occur. The ship's exterior began to shift, not just in appearance, but in fundamental quantum structure. Probability waves rippled across its surface, creating a mesmerizing display that would have driven most species' sensor systems into complete breakdown. Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez monitored the quantum matrices, his augmented eyes tracking billions of data points per second. Quantum resonance at 99.7% synchronization, he reported. Dimensional stability maintaining at critical thresholds. What was happening was beyond mere technological demonstration. This was a fundamental reimagining of spatial existence. The UES Defiance didn't simply replicate itself. It quantum fractured in a way that defied every known principle of physics. One vessel became 5, then 10, then 20, each a perfect quantum-entangled replica with full combat and research capabilities. But these weren't simple copies. Each vessel existed in a state of quantum superposition, simultaneously present and not present, capable of instantaneous reconfiguration. Dr. Nakamura explained to the stunned Concordance observers, "What you're witnessing is not just technological capability. It's a complete reimagining of spatial existence. Each vessel is simultaneously everywhere and nowhere, entangled at a quantum level that allows for instantaneous communication and adaptive response." The demonstration went beyond military capability. Each replicated vessel carried complete research and analytical capabilities. They could analyze, adapt, and respond to threats faster than any known civilization could comprehend. The quantum entanglement meant each ship was a living, breathing network of collective intelligence. "We've been studying more than just military strategy," Dr. Nakamura continued. "We've been understanding the fundamental nature of existence itself." The Concordance observers watched in horror and fascination. Holographic displays struggled to track the quantum vessels, which seemed to dance between different dimensional states. Weapon systems that could predict and neutralize threats before they materialized flickered into existence. Adaptive nanotechnologies that could reconfigure entire ship architectures in microseconds. Captain Elena Rodriguez watched the demonstration with a calculated precision that spoke volumes. This wasn't just a show of force. It was a comprehensive statement about humanity's approach to existence. "Observe," she transmitted across all communication channels, "the difference between technological superiority and true understanding." Each vessel began to interact with its environment in ways that challenged fundamental understanding. They didn't just move through space, they negotiated with it. Gravitational fields became malleable. Quantum uncertainties became predictable patterns. The very fabric of spatial existence seemed to bend around these vessels. Lieutenant Rodriguez managed the quantum split with the precision of a master strategist. "Quantum synchronization maintaining at critical levels," he reported. "Dimensional stress within acceptable parameters." But it was more than a military demonstration. It was a philosophical statement. Humanity wasn't just showing technological capability. They were revealing a fundamental understanding of existence that went beyond conventional thinking. Each quantum-fractured vessel represented a node in a living, breathing network of collective intelligence. The Concordance observers, representatives of civilizations that had dominated galactic politics for millennia, found themselves confronting a terrifying reality. This wasn't just an emerging species. This was a civilization that had fundamentally reimagined the concept of existence itself. "We are not asking for permission." Captain Rodriguez's voice cut through the communication channels with surgical precision. "We are informing you of our intentions to protect this galaxy, with or without your cooperation." As the quantum demonstration concluded, one thing became abundantly clear. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, not as a newcomer, but as a fundamental force of nature. They weren't just a species. They were a paradigm shift. The grand convergence chamber of the Galactic Concordance had never witnessed such unbridled chaos. Holographic representations of diplomatic representatives from 200 different civilizations erupted into a cacophony of panic, fear, and desperate strategizing. Ambassador Krulax of the Zorn Hierarchical Command slammed his multi-jointed appendage against the quantum-resonant diplomatic console. "We cannot allow this level of technological disruption," he bellowed, his crystalline body fracturing with each word, reflecting his emotional turbulence. "These humans represent an unprecedented threat to established galactic order. The Nebula Collective's representative, a being composed of swirling gaseous particles that could reshape themselves at will, responded with a chilling precision. Threat assessment confirms multiple critical concerns. The human technological capability exceeds all known developmental trajectories by approximately 847%. Beneath the diplomatic bluster, a more profound terror had taken root. Dr. Liana Vex, the most renowned xenopolitical strategist in the Concordance, stepped forward. Her augmented neural interface pulsed with computational matrices that were processing billions of potential scenarios per microsecond. "We are not dealing with a simple emerging species," she announced, her voice cutting through the diplomatic noise. "Humanity represents a fundamental paradigm shift in technological and philosophical understanding." Holographic simulations began to cascade around the chamber. Each military projection, each diplomatic scenario, each potential containment strategy ended the same way, with human intervention being the only viable solution to multiple existential threats. The Krelax Diplomatic Corps proposed immediate technological quarantine. Their plan involved creating massive dimensional barriers, implementing comprehensive communication blockades, and potentially initiating preemptive military actions. But the data told a different story. Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez's earlier transmission continued to replay. His analysis of the extra-dimensional threat was comprehensive, backed by decades of human research that made the Concordance's intelligence look like primitive cave drawings. "We've been preparing for this for decades," muttered senior strategist Vornak, his multi-dimensional brain struggling to process the implications. While we were fighting bureaucratic battles and maintaining political stagnation, they were studying, planning, preparing. The most terrifying aspect wasn't their technological superiority. It was their unified purpose. Humanity had approached their galactic emergence, not as conquerors, not as supplicants, but as protectors. Every technological development, every quantum breakthrough, every strategic preparation was aimed at a singular goal: protecting not just their own species, but the entire galactic ecosystem. Ambassador Krelax found himself experiencing an emotion he hadn't felt in centuries of diplomatic service: genuine, unadulterated fear. The human approach was systematically dismantling every established protocol of galactic interaction. They weren't seeking permission. They weren't asking for recognition. They were simply informing the galaxy of their intentions. Diplomatic factions began to fracture. Some wanted immediate suppression. Others recognized the potential of human innovation. The more analytically minded began to see humanity not as a threat, but as a necessary evolutionary step in galactic civilization. Dr. Vex's final assessment sent shockwaves through the entire chamber. Humanity is not an emerging species. They are a civilizational correction mechanism. The implications were staggering. Humanity had emerged not to join the galactic community, but to fundamentally transform it. Their technological capabilities, their philosophical approach, their unifying purpose, all of it suggested something far more profound than mere species advancement. They were a reset button for galactic civilization. As the diplomatic session continued, one thing became terrifyingly clear: nothing would remain the same after humanity's arrival. The galaxy was about to be rewritten. The transmission came simultaneously across every communication channel in known space. A single voice, calm, resolute, almost prophetic, cut through millennia of established galactic protocols. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, her figure silhouetted against a holographic display that showed the intricate quantum mapping of the extra-dimensional threat. Behind her, the bridge crew worked with a synchronized precision that defied traditional military hierarchy. "We are humanity," she said, her voice carrying a weight that transcended mere communication. "We are here. We are prepared. And we will protect this galaxy, not because we were asked, but because it is the right thing to do." The holographic displays across the galactic concordance revealed something unprecedented. It wasn't just military preparedness. It was a complete technological and philosophical framework designed to counter a threat that had been hiding in plain sight for millennia. Dr. Aria Nakamura stepped forward, her quantum interfaces pulsing with layers of complex data. "The threat we've discovered isn't just an external challenge," she explained. "It's a fundamental test of galactic civilization's ability to evolve, to adapt, to survive." The extra-dimensional entities weren't simply a military problem. They represented a cosmic predator that consumed entire dimensional ecosystems, leaving nothing but quantum dust in their wake. Humanity had not just discovered this threat. They had been systematically preparing for it for generations. Every human technological development, every quantum breakthrough, every strategic preparation had been oriented toward this singular purpose. It wasn't about conquest. It wasn't about recognition. It was about survival. Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez managed the ship's quantum matrices, his augmented eyes tracking billions of potential dimensional interactions. "Threat mitigation protocols at 99.8% efficiency," he reported. "Dimensional stability maintaining at critical thresholds." The Concordance leadership watched in a mixture of terror and grudging respect. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, not as a newcomer, but as a fundamental force of nature. Their approach was neither diplomatic nor militaristic. It was a comprehensive system of protection that reimagined the very concept of galactic defense. "We are offering more than protection," Captain Rodriguez continued. "We are offering a new way of understanding our place in the universe." The quantum map displays showed something extraordinary. Humanity had developed technologies that could not just defend against the extra-dimensional threat, but could potentially communicate with it, transform it, understand it in ways no other civilization had even conceived. Dr. Nakamura's research revealed layers of complexity that challenged everything the Concordance knew about dimensional interactions. The extra-dimensional entities weren't simply predators. They were a form of cosmic evolution that had been misunderstood, potentially even miscommunicated with. "Our goal," she explained, "is not destruction. It's understanding." The bridge of the UES Defiance represented something more than a military vessel. It was a mobile research station, a diplomatic platform, a technological marvel that embodied humanity's comprehensive approach to galactic challenges. As the transmission concluded, the message was clear. Humanity had not just arrived. They had transformed the very concept of galactic civilization. Some civilizations explore, some conquer. Humanity, they protected. And in that protection lay a promise and a warning. Asterisk, the galaxy would never be the same again. Asterisk,